we're going through the weirdest facts about your favorite Naruto characters, from Naruto all the way to Boruto. Some of these are gonna blow your mind, others are gonna make you laugh, and a few may even make you question what you thought you knew about this entire series. Starting with the main character himself. Did you know that he was originally never meant to be a ninja? Wait, for real? Yes, for real. You see, Kishimoto's initial pitch to Shonen Jump was a story about a young chef working in a ramen shop. This was before the Naruto one-shot, where Naruto was a boy with the ability to transform into a fox spirit. Still, you can clearly see the traces of Kishimoto's initial idea. Take, for example, his love for Ichiraku ramen, or the fact that he's named after Naruto Maki, which is the swirly white and pink fish cakes you see in ramen bowls. Honestly, it's weird to think that in a different timeline, Naruto was a ramen chef going extreme diff with Mr. Ichiraku Ramen himself. Now, that was just the first one of the 50 facts we're going to be talking about in this video. Make sure to hit that like button and keep watching, because it's only gonna get weirder and weirder from here on out. Moving on to number 2, we have a weird fact about Sasuke, which is that he's biologically cross-dominant. Basically, while he does things like punches, chidori, and hand signs with his left hand, he uses his right hand for writing and for using a sword. But which is his dominant hand? Well, as we see when the sage asks him to present his dominant hand, Sasuke is left-handed. And next, what if I gave you an even more insane fact? What if, for example, I told you that you can now create entire animated sequences from a single image, all thanks to PixAI? If you've ever tried turning anime artwork into animation with AI, you've probably noticed the biggest problem. The movement might look okay sometimes, but the character slowly stops looking like the original. The face changes, the hairstyle shifts, or the entire outfit ends up looking completely different. That's why I wanted to check out PixAI's new image-to-video version 4.0 preview. Unlike general AI image-to-video tools, PixAI is built specifically for anime-style character animation, so the focus is on keeping your original character recognizable while bringing it to life. What stands out in the animations is that the character still looks like the same character. The face, hair, colors, outfit, and overall proportions stay really consistent even as the camera moves. That's exactly what I was hoping to see. Another thing I like is that the version 4.0 preview supports clips up to 15 seconds long, so you're not limited to tiny animations. You can create longer cinematic shots with camera pans, push-ins, pullbacks, orbit shots, or steady holds without constantly stitching multiple clips together. If you want even more control, PixAI also includes keyframe mode. Instead of leaving everything up to the AI, you can define both the starting frame and ending frame, giving you much more precise control over how the animation plays out. PixAI also supports reference-based workflows, meaning your illustration provides the character's identity while your prompt focuses on the action, camera movement, and mood of the scene. It's easy to see why PixAI has grown to more than 4 million monthly active users and over 13 million downloads, even reaching the #1 spot in Japan's App Store graphic and design category. So, what are you waiting for? Download PixAI through the link in my description down below today. But now, let's get back to our video. Naturally, right after Naruto and Sasuke, we have a fact about Sakura, and you know how it is. Naruto not ending up with Sakura caused quite a lot of controversy in the fanbase. But did you know that it also caused controversy at Kishimoto's home? You see, in an interview back in 2015, when Kishimoto is told by Deb Aoki about how fans wanted Naruto to get together with Sakura, he reveals that he almost caused a rift in his own household because his wife was also very upset that Naruto didn't get together with Sakura. So he tried to defuse the situation by assuring his wife that she was actually the model for Hinata, even though this is not true. And he reveals in the same interview that his wife is actually more like Sakura. What do you think? Would you take relationship advice from Kishimoto? Next, moving on to Kakashi. Every Naruto fan has had this one question. Why does Kakashi wear a mask? Of course, there are many answers as well as theories, like how it's to conceal his identity and emotions as a coping mechanism after his father prioritized his emotions over the mission's success, or even to hide his resemblance to his father. But as it turns out, those are fake answers. The real answer was given to us in the Rock Lee and his Ninja Pals spin-off series, where we see that his mask is actually just to hide his nosebleeds. No wonder he quite literally memorized every word in the Icha Icha Paradise series, as we learn in episode 37 of Boruto. Then there's one about Sai. He's actually the only guy to take on his spouse's surname upon marriage, which makes sense, since the closest family Sai ever had was Shin, who wasn't even related to him. But what's weird is how Ino and Sai becoming a couple was entirely entirely by chance. You see, Sai did not know how to talk to other people. He read a book that giving someone a nickname is the way to becoming their friend, and so he started doing that. He gave Sakura Ugly as her nickname, and meant to do the same with Ino, but ended up calling her Gorgeous. Although, it's worth pointing out that he does develop genuine feelings for her before they become a couple. Continuing on, our next fact is about Hinata. She seems all polite and put together, but did you know that she actually holds the record for eating 46 ramen bowls in one sitting? And within just 30 minutes? That's way more than Naruto was able to eat, and it even earned her the title Legendary Queen of Gluttony. Next, let's talk about Shikamaru Nara. We all saw that after Asuma's death, Shikamaru picked up the habit of smoking as a way to cope with his sensei's death. But did you notice that immediately after avenging Asuma, he stopped smoking? In fact, he does not smoke again in the manga until Boruto or the Gaara Hiden novels, which implies that he starts smoking again after he turns into an adult. And that's both funny and weird because this is the same world where Itachi was given the massacre mission at age 13, Kakashi was a Jonin at age 12, and Gaara became Kazekage at age 15. And speaking of Gaara, let me tell you that Gaara was originally going to be a 7-year-old named Kumamaru, who is on steroids. Basically, the idea was to have a nutcase kid who abuses drugs for power-ups. This would have been crazy, because if Sasuke saw a kid like that during the Chunin exams, he would have started saving up for those steroids instead of going after Orochimaru. And I'm not sure if that would have been any better. I mean, can you imagine Sasuke showing up to fight Itachi juiced out of his mind? Rock Lee is up next. And you know what? Kishimoto has mentioned that Lee is his most fun character to draw. His design is literally just a bowl cut, bushy eyebrows, and a green jumpsuit. And yet, out of all the characters Kishimoto has designed over the years, the one he enjoys drawing the most is him. But I think that's exactly why Kishimoto loves drawing him. Lee's design is so simple that it gives Kishimoto the freedom to focus on Lee's dynamic poses. Moving on, we have a fact about Jiraiya. We all know that he has had quite a career. He is one of the legendary Sani, Minato-sensei, Naruto-sensei, a potential Hokage, and also the author of the Icha Icha series, which is so well written that Kakashi revealed in episode 37 of Boruto that he has the entire Icha Icha Paradise series completely memorized. No wonder it made him so rich that his checkbook is full of zeros. Now, what's so weird about this? Well, the weird thing here is that on top of writing all those books, Jiraiya is also the shinobi with the most completed missions out of every character in Naruto. We're talking about 1,839 official missions. That's more than any other character in the narrative. So let's do the math here. Jiraiya was 54 when he died, meaning he was actively doing missions for what, maybe 45-ish years? That averages out to about 40 to 41 missions a year, or roughly one mission every 8 to 9 days for 4.5 decades. And during all that time, he was also writing best-selling novels, training the future 4th Hokage, raising Naruto to some extent, spying on Orochimaru, peeping on women, which is canonically his hobby, and keeping tabs on the Akatsuki. Name one character who was on the grind more than Jiraiya. Another thing about Jiraiya is how he was the one who mentioned that Tsunade's bust size is 106 centimeters. And this leads to a weird fact about Tsunade. You see, in the last message Jiraiya leaves before his death, he also mentions 106. Wait, how is Tsunade's bust relevant to Pain's identity? Well, as it turns out, it was a code that needed some deciphering, and it actually meant the word not. It was the most important term in the message because it is what explains that the real Pain is not among them. Moving on to Orochimaru. His character references snakes to such an extent that his favorite food is actually eggs, and his least favorite food is anything cold, which means Orochimaru must also not like ice cream. Next up is Yamato. And what if I told you that he spent an entire Naruto series without saying a single word? We're talking about the Rock Lee and his Ninja Pals spin-off. Yamato appears in most episodes, but he never gets a single line of dialogue, which is fair. Him not speaking is the joke itself. Number 13 is Iruka-sensei, and he's actually the second character Kishimoto ever created for the Naruto series. Yes, although Iruka is a relatively minor character in the grand scheme of things who does not get much screen time, he was created before even the other main characters like Sasuke, Sakura, or Kakashi. The only character he created before Iruka was, you guessed it, Naruto himself. Then there is Neji. And although you must have noticed that Boruto's name sounds like Naruto's name, Boruto is actually named after Neji. You see, Boruto sounds like Naruto because Kishimoto wanted to keep the naming tradition going, but Boruto is the Japanese pronunciation of the word bolt, which is simply another way of saying screw, and that's what Neji's name means in Japanese. Next up is Tenten. Now let me ask you a question. Can you name any character Tenten has defeated in the official manga? Any character at all? No, right? This is because she has never actually defeated a single named character. And while that is fine, I mean, after all, not every character needs to win fights. The weird thing about this is that Kishimoto once stated he liked Tenten the most out of the 4 Konoha 11 girls. Of course, his preference must have changed over time, but there was a time when he liked her more than Hinata, Sakura, and Ino, and yet she still did not get an iconic action moment. And speaking of Ino, what if I told you that her choice to study medical ninjutsu under Tsunade was entirely filler? In the manga, there's no reference to how she learned to become a medical ninja, so the anime just filled in the blanks with the most obvious headcanon. Like, okay, so she trained under Tsunade like Sakura did. Next, let's talk about Itachi Uchiha. Kishimoto revealed that he originally planned Itachi as the leader of a 70-man group called the Itachi Squad that specialized in assassinations. Though, of course, this was scrapped and Itachi was introduced as a member of the Akatsuki. But can you imagine how different the series would have been if Itachi had a 70-man assassination squad? Honestly, that sounds like a completely different anime. As for Itachi's partner, Kisame, it turns out he is insecure about his blue skin. At the end of episode 18 of Naruto Shippuden, Deidara talks about Itachi to Kisame and how Itachi being so handsome must make him popular with women. But rather than agreeing or disagreeing, Kisame sulks and says that his blue skin makes him strange. But there was actually a girl who showed romantic interest in him. Her name was Miru, and she was part of the Mist Village's Cypher Division. Kisame was tasked with guarding the division, but he had to kill all of them, including Miru, to protect the intel from being leaked out. Still, she is also the only person he has ever felt sadness over killing. What do you think? Is this a better love story than Twilight? Next up is the Akatsuki's leader, Pain, aka Nagato Uzumaki. And obviously, he is an Uzumaki just like Naruto. But did you know that he's actually also a Senju? His mother was clearly an Uzumaki, but based on Black Zetsu's words about Nagato being of the Senju lineage, at least one of his parents must have been Senju, and that would have to have been his father, Iso. Overall, a Senju Uzumaki hybrid explains why Nagato was able to handle the Rinnegan. And just imagine if he had a child with a Hyuga or an Uchiha. Continuing on, we have Nagato's partner, Konan. She is the only woman in the Akatsuki, which is why Kishimoto revealed in the official databook that he actually planned her character way in advance. In fact, his initial design had her wearing a highly revealing outfit that showed off a pierced navel, although all of this gets understandably covered up by her Akatsuki robe. Be that as it may, Kishimoto also joked that she's still freaky, for a lack of a better word. The 22nd fact is about Deidara, and it turns out 2 of his fellow Akatsuki members made predictions about his fate, and both of them came true. In chapter 359, Tobi predicted Deidara would die in an explosion, while Sasori claimed he'd die young. Both came true exactly when he used self-destruction to try and kill Sasuke at just 19 years old. Another Akatsuki member who went out with a bang is Hidan. He's also easily the weirdest member of the Akatsuki, yet he's the only one that Naruto never actually meets. What would have even happened if he met Naruto though? Would Naruto have been able to snap him out of the Jashin cult with the Talk no Jutsu? As for Hidan's partner Kakuzu, you must have noticed that he has Edo-era tattoos on his forearms, kind of like other anime characters like Akaza from Demon Slayer or even Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen, though in Sukuna's case, it was the Heian era. The reason for this is that criminals in those time periods would get tattoos for easy identification, and as you know, Kakuzu committed the crime of failing to kill the first Hokage as ordered by his village's leadership. I guess it makes sense why he snapped, killed the leadership, and took their hearts after they punished him. I mean, how on earth was he supposed to kill Hashirama anyway? Next up is Black Zetsu. This one is obvious, but you don't fully realize it until it's put into words. See, Zetsu was born from Kaguya right before she was sealed away, right? This technically makes him her son, which means he's the brother of Hagoromo and Hamura. Of course, unlike them, he is the manifestation of her will. But just like Mitsuki is Orochimaru's son, Zetsu is, weirdly enough, Kaguya's child. Moving on to the first Hokage himself, Hashirama Senju. He may actually be a time traveler. You see, we know he was alive while Tsunade was 5 years old, which means he was still the Hokage because he passed the title down to his brother shortly before his death. But this doesn't make any sense unless Hashirama was time traveling. Keep in mind that the second Hokage, Tobirama, died during the first Great Ninja War. Yet Tobirama was around long enough to create the Chunin exams, mistreat the Uchiha, and basically do more than any other Hokage did, which means he had to have ruled for a few years before the Great War. And so Hashirama must have died even earlier. Again, Tsunade was Hashirama's granddaughter, not his daughter. He got married and became the Hokage around the same year, so he would need to have been Hokage for like 2.5 decades to have a 5-year-old granddaughter, which just doesn't fit the timeline. So what do you think? How would you explain the timeline to resolve this issue? Or is the only logical explanation the time traveler theory? Next is Tobirama, who is arguably the most influential Kage out of all the Kage in the history of the 5 villages. His accomplishments include establishing the Ninja Academy, the Chunin exams, the Anbu Black Ops, the Konoha Military Police Force, and even the standardized mission system, much of which was copied and implemented by other villages. And considering how aggressive he was, you'd think that he was the most nationalistic Hokage, right? Yet, what's weird is that he's actually the only Hokage never once shown wearing the official Hokage hat. Moving on to the third Hokage. Did you know that Hiruzen was originally supposed to be a dog? It would have been funny if the Hokage was a dog, kind of like how the King of the World is a dog in Dragon Ball. Next is the fourth Hokage, and if you look at all of his jutsu, you'll notice that Minato's naming sense is absolutely absurd. All of his techniques are hard to say out loud in a fight because the names just drag on. But if he sucks at naming things so bad, how did he manage to come up with a badass name like Rasengan, which is basically the most iconic technique in all of Naruto? Well, he did it. It was Kushina who named the Rasengan. And as for Minato's son, Naruto, he's actually named after the protagonist of a novel written by Jiraiya. Speaking of Kushina, oddly enough, when the anime first introduced her, she was shown with violet blue eyes and deep warm hair. This was fixed in later episodes, but what a weird mistake to make. She's Naruto's mom, so she'd have blue eyes like him, and she's an Uzumaki, so obviously she'd have bright red hair. It gets even weirder in hindsight though, because her entire backstory revolves around being bullied for having red hair. She used to be called Tomato by her classmates, and even got the nickname Red Hot Blooded Habanero. So far, we've talked about 30 facts. The 31st fact is about Madara, and this one is not really weird as much as it is just badass. I mean, in an interview back in 2013, Kishimoto straight up said that he created Madara as a character with no weaknesses. The 32nd fact is about Obito. You'd be surprised to know that Kishimoto actually had Obito's character all planned out even before chapter 16, which is when he makes a cameo in a picture with Kakashi on the cover of the manga's 16th chapter. Basically, Kishimoto already had Obito in mind the moment he gave Kakashi a single Sharingan eye. This is crazy because the actual identity reveal doesn't happen until chapter 599. And just like Rock Lee, Obito was actually one of Kishimoto's favorite characters to draw because of how simple his mask was. Next, let's talk about Shisui Uchiha. Did you know that his fight with Danzo, which is off-screen in the manga, happens differently in the anime, differently in the Itachi Shinden novel, and differently in the Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolution game? Let me break it down. In the anime, Danzo arranges a meeting with Shisui and steals his eye after a fight. In the novel, Shisui is ambushed by Danzo and Suguru from the Aburame clan, whose insects poison him. And in the Ninja Storm version, Danzo and the Root Anbu corner Shisui until Itachi comes to his rescue. So, we actually have 3 completely different versions of the exact same event. Next up is Onoki. You know how Sasori of the Akatsuki had the 3rd Kazekage himself as a puppet? Well, have you ever wondered what would happen if he got his hands on an even more powerful Kage? For example, Onoki, one of the only 2 shinobi who can use the particle style. That actually happens during Tsunade's infinite Tsukuyomi dream. Onoki, as well as other Kage like A and Mei Terumi, are shown as Sasori's puppets. That must have made Sasori at least top 3 in the Akatsuki, which honestly just feels wrong somehow. Moving on to Zabuza, the first major villain in the story. There's something very weird about his timeline. We know he massacred over 100 Academy students while he was a student himself at the age of 9. And according to the official data book, that happened 17 years ago because Zabuza was 26 years old at the time of his death. But Kakashi states in the story that the massacre happened only 10 years earlier, which means if Kakashi is right and the data books are wrong, Zabuza was actually only 19 years old when he fought Team 7. That means the age difference between Zabuza and Haku may have only been 4 years, considering how Haku was 15. That's the same age gap as Gohan and Piccolo, except here, it's Haku who dies for Zabuza, unlike how Piccolo dies for Gohan. Speaking of Haku, we've already talked about how Kishimoto originally wanted the 3rd Hokage to be a dog, but as it turns out, he also wanted Haku to be a bear. This is what he revealed in an interview when he initially wanted Haku as a bear before changing him to a human. But when you think about it, the transition from a bear to a pretty boy who constantly gets mistaken for a girl must have been weird and awkward for Kishimoto's editor. Next up is Asuma Sarutobi, and let me tell you, Asuma and his father Hiruzen both die in the 80th episode of their respective series. Hiruzen dies in episode 80 of original Naruto, while Asuma dies in episode 80 of Shippuden. What do you think? Was that just a coincidence, or was someone at Studio Pierrot really obsessed with numbers like Eiichiro Oda? Shino is up next, and when you think about it, his glasses are just like Kakashi's mask, in the sense that he is never seen without them. Sometimes it even makes you wonder if he has insects in his eye socket instead of actual eyes. But we've actually seen his eyes multiple times in the anime. For example, in episode 149, we catch a glimpse of his side profile, and his eyes are the most normal looking eyes ever. Then there's Kiba. And remember how Naruto farted at him during their fight in the Chunin exams? That was bad enough. But did you know that it actually happened multiple times? Obviously it happened during that fight, but then it happens again when they're on a mission mission to find the Bikochu beetle so it can lock onto Sasuke's scent. Unfortunately, as far as the subject of scent goes, Kiba ends up experiencing the awful scent of Naruto's fart. And then, this happens in Shippuden as well during the Three Tails appearance. So in total, Kiba was exposed to Naruto's biological warfare 3 different times. Can we get some rips for Kira's nose in the comments? At number 40, we have Rin Nohara. And in the context of Jinchuriki deaths, her death is weird and unique because she died before the tailed beast could be extracted. This means she died with the tailed beast still inside of her. That's right, the tailed beast died with her and later reincarnated. And this is a weird fact about Kakashi as well, because he accidentally killed the tailed beast when he accidentally killed her. Next up, let me tell you about when Kishimoto created a character because his editor wanted a ninja who used pro wrestling moves. Can you guess which character we're talking about? It's Killer Bee. No wonder, Bee's name is a reference to a professional wrestling team called the Killer Bees. Plus his move, Lightning Release Double Lariat, is a reference to the Cross Bomber move used in a wrestling manga called Kinnikuman. And let me give you another fact, because Kishimoto also made Killer Bee a rapper. You see, Kishimoto once revealed that he had trouble writing Bee's lines because he always wanted them to rhyme. At number 42, there's Ebisu. Kishimoto said that he quite likes his character design, but what's weird is that Kishimoto cannot explain why. Why do you think Kishimoto likes Ebisu's design? Any ideas? Next up is Might Guy. And you already know that although it feels like Might Guy is only able to use taijutsu, he is not like Rock Lee, in the sense that Lee can't use any ninjutsu at all. Might Guy can still do things like summon tortoises, but have you ever thought about his chakra nature? It's fire and lightning, which is a standard chakra nature of most Uchiha. That's a pretty weird coincidence. And by the way, another reason why Might Guy avoids using his basic level ninjutsu is because he'd rather not use it in front of Lee, who looks up to him more than anyone else in the world. And since we're talking about Guy already, the man acknowledged by Madara himself as the strongest, let me give you another one. As we see in Boruto, Guy has already forgotten Madara's name. Moving on, there's one about Ao, and it's not really a fact as much as it is a gag. Basically, whenever Ao is scolding Chojuro about something, Mei always mishears it as something about her love life. For example, arrangements becomes engagements, manage becomes marriage, and call you ambitious becomes called off. And every time, Mei threatens to kill Ao if he doesn't shut up, which always leaves the poor guy confused. Do you think this contributed to him becoming a villain in Boruto? Now, at number 45, we have a weird fact about Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the Sage of Six Paths. We know that he awakened the Sharingan and even the Mangekyo Sharingan. In fact, even the Susanoo. But that's all just in the anime. In the manga, he was born directly with the Rinnegan. And honestly, the studio took a lot of weird liberties in general, like having Ashura perform a Rasengan type move and giving Indra the exact same Mangekyo as Sasuke. Continuing on, we have one about Hinata's sister, Hanabi. You see, because she was born after Hinata, it was a possibility for Hanabi to get the cursed seal when she turned 3. But this did not happen because Hanabi was chosen as the heiress instead of Hinata, due to Hanabi being more suitable. Still, it goes to show how weird and messed up the Hyuga clan was. Also, did you know that Boruto and Himawari are technically members of the Hyuga clan? And because their mother isn't the heir, they would have been branch family members had the Hyuga clan stayed the same? That means Boruto would have gotten the seal at age 3. Of course, Naruto wouldn't have let that happen, but it's interesting to imagine what the situation would have been like if the Hyuga clan did not change. And speaking of Boruto, let's talk about a few weird facts about Boruto's main characters. For example, if you've been up to date with Boruto, you may know that Himawari's hair waves in locks, kind of like the Ninetales when she's in her Jinchuriki form. Oddly enough, her grandmother, Kushina's hair, also moved the same way when she was angry. Next is Sarada, and it's weird how she's the only Uchiha to wear glasses, right? Well, although we know that it's because a fever in her childhood weakened her eyesight, the real reason is simply because Kishimoto thought they looked cool. Basically, at first, Kishimoto wanted her to look like a female version of Sasuke with long hair, but he changed his mind and gave her glasses instead. And speaking of her being like a female version of Sasuke, it was only in terms of appearance. She is not like Sasuke at all. I mean, Sasuke's favorite food is tomatoes, but that's Sarada's least favorite food. Then we have Kawaki. You must have noticed that there's a mark under his left eye that's actually the Roman number 9, which stands for how he was the 9th experiment used by Kara to create a vessel. But if we go back to the first chapter, it's a dagger-shaped scar or tattoo instead. An understandable retcon because, obviously, it's not like the entire Boruto story was already planned in the beginning. But it does make you wonder what may have been the context of that dagger tattoo, considering how the number 9 symbolizes Kawaki becoming an experiment after being sold by his father for money to buy alcohol. Finally, our last fact is about Boruto himself, and this one is just sad. I'm gonna leave you with how Kishimoto said he developed Boruto and Naruto's relationship from his relationship with his own sons. That's right, the son who feels neglected by his father, who's always working, came directly from Kishimoto's real life. He revealed this in an interview in 2015, and also added that he'll have to wait until until his children give him permission before he can work on his next series. Thanks for watching this video! Make sure you like and subscribe, and click on this video next for more great anime content! Go on, check it out!